I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so excited. It's 6:01. I'm just here to hang out with you guys. Are you guys doing any projects right now? Or are you just here to ask questions and witness the live action? My last live, if you guys were here or were able to watch it, I was going through stuff and it was just like overwhelming. I was going through memorabilia and making choices, kind of like organized with me body double, and then I felt so overwhelmed because you guys were in the chat asking questions, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go in, no plan, hang out, talk about organizing. I could talk about organizing forever. Okay, Sherry, would totally attend if you did some in-person conferences. Could start with a short morning, then develop into a day, then a weekend. Woo! Hey, the sky's the limit right now with what I can do. That's awesome. My goal is really to work one-on-one with people and film it. Like if you guys saw the bathroom project I did with my sister, I want to film close up because sometimes I just can't describe what I do to people. People have always kind of been confused, like, what exactly do you do? But until I show up and we start working and I find out what you need, emotional and physical support, and I feel the only way to really portray that is watching the intimate process, the one-on-one with a client. But I have to have the right person and learn how to do that better. But an idea for a conference, that's something that I will definitely keep in mind. Thank you. I appreciate any suggestions, any ideas. It really helps me to know what resonates with you guys, because I admit this from time to time that I can be a little disconnected as to what the struggle is of disorganization. So working with my clients helps remind me of the issues and the struggles that people are constantly dealing with every day with disorganization. Hi, Anne. Thank you so much. Welcome. Tracy, I needed to do the whole house, but I'm doing random drawers at the moment. Hey, I have posted a couple videos about where to start for organizing projects. Excuse me. I'm going to be talking a lot, so I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. Okay, this is so fun. Hi, Heather. Hi, Mary. Okay, so getting where to start. I see a lot of people say, just start. And that can be really overwhelming and off-putting. It's like, yeah, right, just start. Just like, yeah, just get out of bed and run a 5K, things like that. And when we're in a certain mind frame, we're overwhelmed or numb or disassociating, just start feels rough. So really, it always just depends on the person. Gosh, I'm trying to think of all my different things of where to start. Sometimes I'll say, it helps to know the person and know the situation. But sometimes it helps to say, start with the easiest thing, the lowest hanging fruit, a bunch of empty boxes is trash. And then say I go to my client's basement and I look around and I'm like, there's so much trash here. Let's just throw away all the trash. And as soon as we throw away all the trash, the AKA low hanging fruit, it feels so good already. And then you're like, oh, this feels great. And then the next step is like, oh, this old ripped thing, these broken things. Well, those are easy decisions. And then from there, it's like the video I made was called Layers of Decluttering. It's like the easy trash, the broken, dusty, old, dirty things. And then as you rip away those layers, you kind of whittle it down to the emotional stuff that gets a little bit harder and it kind of slows the pace down. But where to start can also be where you make the most dent, where the biggest dent you can make. But also, like you said, you're starting with your drawers. You're starting with something small because you're going to be able, depending on your personality, if you're going to start and finish something, and that's going to be a win for you, then that's really great. I could go on and on about where to start, but it is quite custom. The thing that's hindering me most during decluttering and organizing projects is decision fatigue. Wondering if you have some tips regarding decision fatigue during a project. I used to be very overwhelmed at making decisions. I still can be. When I would walk into a store to go, like I need some clothes, I would walk into the store and feel really, really overwhelmed. Kitty's making an appearance. I had to practice. I had to learn how to make decisions. Kitty, no, she's destroying. Okay, listen, you'll be good. You're gonna be a good girl. I had to really practice making decisions. I had to go through trial and error. So when I'm with my clients, what I'm helping them do is practice decision making. And I've had these experiences with all these different answers to decisions and questions to ask. And so I think what makes the decision fatigue hard is that if you're not as decisive of a person, it takes practice. But that's why the purging questions are so important, because it's not necessarily decisions. It can also be about asking the right questions. I should also note that the purging questions videos have been doing so well, I realized that I need to make something more of that. So I'm working on a printout with purging questions to ask yourself, and then details about each question and examples. Let me just think a little bit more about that decision fatigue. It's practice. Being decisive is a really important quality, because depending on the client I'm working with, if I work with a client and they are decisive, they know how they feel, they trust themselves, they're in touch with who they are and who they want to be, they know what their goals are for the space, they execute, and they're like, nope, 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 and they're ruthless. And you know what? Sometimes I'm amazed, and sometimes I'm like, wow, I don't feel like I could be that decisive sometimes with my own stuff. So it can be really, really impressive. I just want to make sure I covered. Yeah, and not to overwhelm yourself. You know, it's really important, and I'm trying to be repetitive about making organizing, decluttering a positive experience. So not doing it to the point of exhaustion or decision fatigue. You know, being gentle with yourself and doing it in small increments. How to sort things when it's too big of a project to finish in one day. I need to sort baby clothes, and every time I leave off, I forget what my piles are. I'm so excited. Whenever I talk about organizing, I get really excited. Okay. So if you've ever seen any of my videos, when I go to a client's house, I use bins. And in my book, How to Organize Everything, I talk about having sorting bins. So if you're going to do a project, rather than making piles, use containers, because oftentimes we don't have the time to finish the project. And if you can, label those containers so when you hit timeout and pause, you can set your piles, aka containers, you can stack them, you know, slide them somewhere, push them off, and then have labels so when you get back into that project, you know exactly what pile that is, what size that was. I use sticky notes or tape or just anything, mostly sticky notes, to stick on the bins. That would be the quickest way to do that. I guess it also depends on what space you have. You definitely don't want the stuff in the middle of your space. So also consider where you're going to do the project. If you don't think you're going to have time to get it done, choose set up a table somewhere so it can stay there and it's not in your functioning space. I hope that helps. I realized too, like talking with people and having a follow-up question or to be able to ask you a little bit more so I have some context would be really helpful. This is not helpful. Okay, I purposely left the door open just so she could come in. Sherry, can you travel to organize and film for pay and then use the video to train others? Excuse me. I could. I have been working one-on-one with clients for over 15 years, and my body has taken a bit of a toll. My low back can be very, very tight, and right now I'm trying to limit my in-person client work, so I'm only in a small window of in-person client work right now. And if I do film, I don't know what that looks like yet. So right now I'm just keeping it to like family, really close friends, so I can get some practice. But if I had endless amounts of energy, it would be amazing to like travel the country and organize all of you. I wish I had done this when I was in my 20s, because then I would be like, let's go. Thank you guys for being here, by the way. I really appreciate all of you subscribing. It makes me so, so excited to be able to have subscribers to support me, to be able to do this more. As my subscriber count grows, I will be offering more things, hopefully more lives, but because it pays me to be here with you, that's very helpful. So thank you for supporting me so I can support you back. Can you show how to help my spouse who has two really bad areas. Garage, work bench, oh yeah, work tool bench, and his office. How do I help him begin to work on them? Or should I just hire someone? It's bad. So that's a tough question to answer when I don't know you both, but I'll do my best. I guess it depends on your relationship, how well you can work together. Some people just butt heads. They're not sure how to approach each other. And to be honest, when I go to clients' houses and mom's there or spouses there, they have a tendency to trigger the client I'm working with because there's emotional baggage there. So usually it can help to have a neutral person like me come in, hopefully non-judgmental and accommodating their, personality, the client's personality and, challenges. What's hard for me as an organizer is when I come in to work with, say, a husband, which has been like a handful of times. A wife hires me to help with the husband, right? So what's hard is that I usually want to know their goals. Like, they need the motivation. They need to have the goals and the drive or the willingness and the motivation. So they're like, well, my wife wants this and she wants that, but what's exciting them? You gotta find what makes them excited. Hopefully, if they get excited about an organized space, then that's really good. If they don't care, that's a little bit of a red flag, and that's a little bit deeper emotionally as to like, but you could really benefit and trying to see the value. However, if they have that motivation and they're like, yeah, I want to be more organized, then that's really great. As far as you trying to help them versus hiring somebody else, I always recommend being gentle and being kind. Find out what motivates them. Knowing their habits is really important. Knowing if they're the type of person that doesn't want to, think things through to put something away. Especially, I would say a lot of the guys that I've worked with, they're like, oh yeah, in that drawer, that's fine. And I'm like, but don't you want to think about it a little bit more? Like, if this drawer's here and they're like, no, just that drawer. I'm like, oh, okay. So like I have to really most of the time kind of back off and just simple, easy. This drawer's that drawer's that. Really like 1 to 2 steps, no thinking involved. Especially for a tool bench. Tool bench, you want to access stuff when you're doing a project. When you want to grab something and you're in the middle of things and you're done a project, cleanup is like the last thing you want to do when you're done a project in a garage. So if it's like a pegboard, things are just even 1 step away is really, really helpful. Oh, I'm thinking back to husband, Mary Clark's husband project. That's what's really, that's an important thing I thought of. Knowing if certain things bother them. I think a lot of times our spouses, certain visual clutter can bother us, but our partner or our spouse doesn't really care. So helping them organize based on their preferences, especially if it's their own space, just let them have, what their stuff is, but, little tweaks at a time. Or if you notice like 1 or 2 things that would really help. I have to tell you, one of my former partners didn't know she could be more organized until we lived together. And then I was like, but that could be so much better. And then I showed her and she was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And also living by example. It definitely feels good to get something done. The trouble is it doesn't make much difference in the room. And for years I've been bouncing from thing to thing. You never quite get anywhere. You never get anywhere because eventually the cupboard or the drawer you did gets messy again. I feel like I need to do a whole room until it's done. But I know I'll end up with loads of homeless stuff because every room needs doing. One of the things I haven't addressed that is on my list right now is overhaul versus maintain. If you saw, I had an Organize With Me video. Organize With Me videos are a longer form on my YouTube. And it's either me personally organizing a room in a time lapse or just organizing and talking about things in a non-time lapse. And the one Organize With Me video I did was a utility closet, this awkward, weird space downstairs above the basement, behind a door, in the corner of the living room, and that's where my tools are. And man, I should listen to my own advice. Talk about finishing up with projects and having to clean up. That gets messy really quick. So I'm watching it. I'm watching it lose its shape. So if you have these different areas that you want to keep organized, I'm wondering how defined those areas are. Like this cupboard is for the mugs and the glasses. This is just kind of an easy example. And as those start to overflow, are you noticing that? Because if they start to overflow and you're like, oh, let me pull out a couple of mugs because it's getting full and we'll donate those, then you're maintaining. If it gets to the point where other stuff gets thrown in there and then you have to pull everything out and redo it, then you're overhauling. So back to the utility closet, it's been losing its shape because I will clean up. I did a cat tree, I built a cat tree for my cats, and I had all this stuff left over and I was tired and my brain was done with thinking, and I opened that door and I just started, put stuff back there, and I've been watching it knowing I need to do it, but also like, oh, I'm going to film that. So I think it's really important to recognize, is it starting to overflow and lose its shape? Then it's time to just do a little bit before it gets too much of a project. Any suggestions for print photos and negatives? We have boxes full of these, plus boxes of these inherited from in-laws who have passed away. Oh my gosh. My mom just came over and dropped off some photo albums, and she was talking about wanting to go through them together, and I was like, oh yes, let's do that. I especially like, old photos, if they're blurry and they're dark. We were talking about letting go of those, but you're talking about maybe storage. I'm wondering if you're talking about storage or sorting and organizing, or even eliminating some purging a little bit. Suggestions for print photos and negatives. So yeah, you have boxes and boxes, so it sounds like you have them in boxes, but I'm wondering if you need more of a detailed system. So the experience that I've had with other clients is acid-free is really important. Moisture is really important, so you got to store them in a container that is appropriate for documents, paper, and for the negatives also, the environment, the temperature is really important, so where it lives and what it lives in. Usually I just recommend the photo boxes because the photos, I guess, can get really heavy over time. So they're usually about the size of a shoebox and they're lined up, but it depends on how deep you want to get with the project. As far as sorting categories, I have a client who had hundreds, maybe thousands of pictures, and we never got through the whole project, but what we did was we picked main categories. I think it's really key here to decide how you're going to sort them. So for her, we did based on her son's age. We did like when he was a baby to just a baby. And then we did when he was a toddler, elementary school, and then high school. So we had four times, four, I guess, almost decades. Nah, not fully decades. Bear with me here. We had four categories, four categories to sort them into. Because then if you start doing too many categories, you're trying to make too many piles. So we just stuck to those four because she had so many. We're just like baby, toddler, high school, elementary school. And so now, just the partially organized project, we've had to access some photos from that time period, and she's been able to, on his birthday, go back and find those bins. So those were really helpful. By him organizing stuff. Oh, in reference to the husband organizing his workbench and his office. That's true. Yeah, it depends. Sometimes you need to sort and purge before you know what organizing products to get. But if you know he doesn't have a pegboard at all, or he doesn't have toolboxes, then sorting into those toolboxes. Some guys have like the plumbing toolbox and the electricity. I mean, my dream is one of those tool benches. Is it a tool bench with the carts? I can't think of like a Craftsman, and they have those really nice drawers. Oof! When I own a home, I'd love to have that. Right now, I'm just functioning out of toolboxes. We have a desk in my kitchen, which becomes a dumping ground. I'm sure. I never use it, but not sure where else to keep my computer. Any way I can keep it from being the dump. Change use entirely. Change, I'm wondering if you mean keep the desk from being a dump. Bear with me here. I'm just going to reread it. Desk in my kitchen, which becomes a dumping ground. I never use it. Not sure. I never use the desk, but not sure where else to keep my computer. Any else? I guess I'm wondering, is the computer not a laptop then? It must be like a, what are non-laptops called these days? It's a desktop, excuse me. Okay, so if I came into your space today and we analyzed that kitchen, that desk in your kitchen, I would analyze what's on there first. I would also ask you, like, what's your vision? So obviously you want to be able to keep it clear. You want that to, if that's your ideal space to be your desk, then that would be the goal. So if you analyze what's on the desk, start with like one item. Gosh, all these pens keep winding up here. Why do they keep winding up here? Oh, the pen storage is around the corner and up the stairs, or there is no easy spot to drop pens. And there's like all these notepads from my kids and my family members, and they're like scribbled with notes, but you know, where do notepads live? Not only that, do the things have homes and are they easily accessible? But when you have a horizontal surface, especially in a kitchen space, it's really easy to dump stuff. And I can attest to that with my kitchen table. So what happens is if stuff starts popping on my kitchen table, I'm analyzing, okay, the home for this item is not easy enough to get to. But not only that, I'm having a moment here. Give me a second. Oh, this is a little dangerous, but creating more horizontal spaces nearby. So what I've done in the kitchen is I have a 3-tiered small little shelf behind my kitchen chair that I created because I'll have a tendency to want to get up, you know, I leave myself Post-it notes all the time. And I'm like, but I got to see it before I walk out the door. And the table's where what I look at before I walk out the door. But that set of shelves, I've developed a habit to check in on those shelves. So the top shelf is anything that's like today. The bottom shelf is like sometime this week, maybe, and the middle shelf is anytime this week, and the bottom shelf is whenever, no big deal, I'll get to it. So recognizing to create more horizontal spaces that would support your habits and the items that are living there. And ultimately, that's really, as far as like functional spaces, when I'm showing up to a client's house, we're analyzing the stuff. Where does it live? Where's its cousins, coworkers, and family? Trademark. Why does it have a home? Does it not have a home? And how easy is it to get to? Because that's probably why it's winding up just getting thrown down. I have multiples of the same thing, like Epsom salt or hot water bottles or bandages, heat wraps, but I don't want to get rid of it, but I'm running out of room for it all. Multiples. Well, Epsom salts are nice to have. Hot water bottles, bandages. Well, if it's worth the real estate of storing, then it's really about getting creative with your storage space, analyzing the space it's living in. So right now, here's an example. I have the biggest closet in our house is a bathroom closet. It's a double door with a bar and a shelf. And I was looking at it and was like, man, I wish this was empty and this could be our basement and attic storage, because we don't have really access and appropriate attic or basement storage for bulk storage. So my thought was, ooh, there's another closet in the bathroom. If I could merge some of my bathroom products and kind of tighten those up, my linens could move into one of those shelves and I could clear that double door closet for some larger storage. So kind of analyzing the stuff you have. When I work with a client, say we're doing a kitchen, and we pull stuff out of part of the kitchen, all the kitchen, whatever, just one cabinet. We pull everything out, we purge. Purging, step 1, remove what doesn't belong. And then we sort the like items together. And then we contain, and once we start putting that stuff back, we're like, okay, these things are going to live on this shelf. I always tell them, let's start ideal. Let's put all the, say we're doing like cups and water bottles. Let's start by laying out everything front faced, really easy to grab. And then they're like, well, I purged 5 and now I have like 20 left. I'm like, well, 20, that's still maybe a lot. So we're putting a bunch of stuff back, and then it starts getting a little bit more crammed. And so to them, I'm showing how minimal of a collection you would need to have the ideal cabinet. So you have to then decide, would I rather have an ideal functioning cabinet, or would I rather sacrifice the function to have more stuff? What training or certifications did you need to be an organizer? I didn't. You can become a certified professional organizer if you want to. It wasn't something that is necessary. Of course, like a masseuse is required by law to get a personal trainer. Some people do search, like you can go to National Association for Professional Organizers. They have like a search for certified organizers. But to be honest, since 2009, since I started my business, I only had 2 people asking me if I was NAPO certified, and I was like, no, it costs money. When I looked into certification, it was hundreds of dollars that I didn't have. And the test to be certified was basically read these books and have 1,500 hours of experience of transfer of skill, meaning you're teaching people. And I had already been a warehouse manager and training people. So I just felt like reading books and paying money, but that was back then. It could have evolved since then. I just never did it. And the 2 people that had asked me if I was NAPO certified, we still ended up working together, and they were very, very happy. So, some people prefer to feel good about a certification. It makes them feel, have value, but I just never felt like I wanted it. I know the woman, Clutterbug is her business name. I think she has a certification process that you can go through as well. Yeah, hubby goes to bed at 6. I'm up till 1 a.m. iOrganize was on until I went to bed during that push. Thank you. Thank you for helping me get my watch hours on YouTube. It's been really exciting. YouTube is ultimately the most consistent and best paying platform for monetization. Facebook has been really wonderful, and I'm grateful for the income, but they're inconsistent. They've recently dropped their pay incredibly. I think I can make a little bit of monetization from lives eventually, but I have to do this like a lot more, and I'm working towards it. I'm planning to take a pic of each photo, photo organization, then put the digital pics onto a thumb drive so I can let go of the physical pictures unless I'm going to frame it and hang it. Oh, I totally forgot about digital. My bad. I was thinking solely focused on physical organization of photos. Yes, the digital route. And I don't have anything at the top of my brain for like gadgets out there. I'm sure there's a ton of them now. One of my clients had like a photo scan thing. You can put one photo at a time, and it was like really quick and really smart, and you could maybe like even identify faces, and I'm drawing a blank on what that was. Instead of using it as a desk with mail, pencils, computer, etc., I don't ever sit at the desk. Kelda says it's a laptop. Oh, okay. So Kelda was asking earlier about her kitchen desk space that she doesn't sit at, and it keeps getting covered in stuff. So I'm wondering, well, a laptop's great because you can move around the house. I have a tendency to work in 2 to 3 different places in my house, but I'll bring the laptop to. I'm wondering if, without being able to ask you follow-up questions, would you want to have a mobile office? Some people use like a cart on wheels, depending on the layout of your house, where they'll roll it around. Or like a little, some things you can carry that has notepads and pencils and things like that. If that's what you're looking for. The beauty of laptops, to be able to be cozy. I love laying down. I have an office bed in my office because sitting can sometimes hurt my low back. I have a very flat low back, so like standing and sitting kind of bothers me a little bit. The subscriber group and the page, there's so many conversations going on. I'm like trying to get in there and figure out habits and how to how to be a part of that. I know you guys being able to talk with each other is really great. And this is my focus because this is the easiest and quickest way to answer your questions. So my goal is to be focused on these lives. If I do have time, I'd spend a lot of time answering comments and questions. So my plan is to kind of back off a little bit on the main page and try to focus, kind of shift over to the subscriber group and chats and focus my time more there because you guys are helping support me. So that's the plan. So bear with me. I did set up 2 side chats today. That one was papers and mail, so you can talk about anything in there. I think you can post pictures too, it seems. And the other is small spaces. So if you guys post on the page and let me know any other side chat categories you wanna add. It would be neat to hear from the community how they find motivation for themselves and or how they motivate their cohabitants to overhaul and or maintain. That's true. You're right, because it really is different for everybody. The woman who asked earlier about motivating her husband. Yeah, it really varies what their motivation is. And if it's not valuing organizing, then is it just to make you happy? But you want them to benefit from it too. So talking it through and clear communication is always, recommended if, hopefully if possible to say, hey, this bothers me, or I really want to improve this space. How can we find a compromise on organizing together so that at least I can function and have this and you can have that, right? And whatever your goals are and coming together on that. I guess I know a more specific example might help me explain that a little bit better. Not so vague. Okay, Sue Armento. Organizing with a friend keeps me focused and makes it enjoyable. That's true. You got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy your company too. Absolutely. Oh, well, I mean, there's always the happy decluttering playlist on Spotify and YouTube. It's so much fun. People still recommend songs that are like clever, that like could be associated with decluttering. And if you guys don't know, I'm sure you know by now, I made a playlist on Spotify of music, and it's over, I think it's like 3 hours of songs, and they're either songs that are like let it go, or just like fun, positive, classic songs that everybody knows. And I learned some new songs from it. There's a song from the musical Beetlejuice, and it's a couple, and they're purging and throwing stuff away, and they're like, we're not kombucha people, let's get rid of the kombucha. So that's been really fun, and I like to listen to that often. And there's sections, it's divided into sections, so depending on the vibe. Pamela Garcia, I read your book last night. Yes, the whole thing. Awesome. Yeah, it was really well written and to the point. 5 stars. Thank you. 5 stars. I'm tackling my garage this weekend, and all your tips and strategies make it a lot less overwhelming. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If anybody did buy this book, I haven't asked anybody, but a review on Amazon or my Gumroad. I guess Gumroad you can leave reviews. I'm actually not sure. But reviews would be really awesome. That helps. But I appreciate time, and to have somebody spend time is my love language. It's quality time. Thank you. I'm really proud of this. It makes me so happy. I want to write so many books. I definitely have ADHD characteristics. I keep organizing like one thing in a room and then randomly starting in a different room. I didn't understand that I have a hard time labeling myself as on the spectrum or ADHD hard, because like no one has said that you are that. But if all the characteristics, and I relate a lot. I do. It's hard for me to focus. But you know what's funny? You don't know whatever you are, you think is normal, unless it's like really extreme, whatever your characteristics. But like if it's all going on in here, you don't know until somebody points it out or something really big makes you realize it. So I didn't realize until the last few years that mostly 99% of my clients are ADHD, and I'm just going right along with them until I finally realized and was like, oh my gosh, I would get like just sucked in along. We'd just be like, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta like really like, are you sure that's how you want to be spending your time? Now, don't forget, we're over here. Well, I'm trying to keep myself focused. And when I first started my business, I had to really practice like focus. What's one thing? What's the one thing that you're doing? Just what, and just come back out. Just come back out. What were you doing? So the best thing that I could say is I witnessed my clients just getting distracted and trying to practice remembering what your one focus was. And I know perfectionism can be included in that. Some characteristics of ADHD, it's like I'm not going to do it if it's perfected. I watched one of my clients basically as I worked for hours and hours, she got really locked in on cleaning and detailing this one shelf. And I was really trying to encourage her, like, sometimes you just gotta skip things and try to let things go and get everything kind of set, that the whole, like, back yourself out and look at everything as a whole. And you can go back to that and detail that later. There's a lot. That's a Pandora's box to talk about. Katie loves challenges. Any thought about a weekly challenge for the subscriber group? No pressure to participate, but might be motivating. Katie, I have struggled on a challenge. I don't know. There's certain things that I have a really hard time wrapping my brain around. One is following trends, like content creator trends. Long story. And challenges, there's certain things that I just can't. And I think challenges, and I mentioned before, challenges kind of overwhelm me. And I'm not really sure what would be appropriate for everybody. And then I think I overthink. I'm like, well, what's everybody's schedule? Do they have time? And so the wheel of decluttering was the first thing that really resonated with me. Talk about that dopamine from earlier, especially with ADHD, the excitement. So when my friend Abigail from her Downsize Upgrade channel, Minimalist and Impulsive Shopping channel, does her wheel of decluttering, I'm like, ooh, and she gives me the specific thing to go declutter. And it's given me an opportunity to take a harder look at a specific category in my house to declutter with. So the wheel of decluttering has been the only thing that really resonates. I'm open for suggestions. And I'm also having a hard time. I've had a hard time with promising things on a weekly basis because I'm still with clients. So one thing I'm starting to get into the routine of is certain videos I can make really easily, like the minimalism versus maximalism. They're very easy to create. So I'm going to do those every Monday. And now Wheel of Decluttering is really easy. And I can do those every Wednesday and Sunday. So I'm trying to get on a posting schedule. I'm just venting about content creator problems. That's not fun. I'm going to move on. But yeah, why don't you guys give me feedback in the group page? Depending on what your project is and what your goals are, if you can just let go of the initial, we talked about the layers of decluttering. If you can just let go of a big part of that without being weighed down by those side projects and side tasks, like I'm going to sell these, I'm going to read all this, I'm going to keep, trash, giveaway. 3 categories only. That's it. But you want to sell a couple things, I don't know, that gets murky. That contradicts my job. So my house is small for my family size, so every space has at least 3 uses. Yeah. For example, my dining area is also a game room, garden shed, craft room, and school supply area. Do you have any tips on how to organize for a multi-purpose space like that? Ooh, I feel you. And I'm really glad I had the opportunity to live in a studio apartment for about 3 years, from 2018 to 2020, 2021. Okay, let me think. Well, yes, definitely every room is like multi-purpose. I even didn't unpack some of the stuff because I realized it's not worth unpacking all of my categories because I don't have certain, areas to be able to incorporate certain things. And if they're not top priority and they're not used, basically it's like you have to get really strict. Like they're not used on a daily basis or a weekly basis. They're like off and away in a box, in a stack, in a closet. Especially you don't usually have garages and attics or big storage in studio and small spaces. Tips on how to organize for multi-use space like this. Lots of drawers and lots of shelves. I think drawers, I don't think we have enough drawers. I feel like houses, especially kitchens, don't come with enough drawers. How easy are they? And drawers limit you to a certain amount, or you're stuffing it and you can't open it. And hopefully you don't stuff it too hard because you don't want to be able to, you want to be able to smoothly access your drawers. But multi-purpose rooms, multifunctioning furniture as well. So any type of furniture that you can get storage into. So like some furniture kind of wastes space because like, why isn't there a drawer or a cubby or a shelf in that piece of furniture? Or that ottoman should have storage inside of it, or that couch should be a pull-out couch. Without seeing it, I can't think about more specifics, but that's the general idea. I do mention in my book and in some of my videos about small spaces, my YouTube has themed playlists, which I point to people to often. And one of those playlists is small spaces. And it is, using the wall space. One of the things I'll do with a client, and they're saying, I really want to store this stuff, but I don't know where to put it, and this is all I have. So I look for wasted space. I look for open space. Like, for instance, like I'm not utilizing this shelf at all. If I really was maxed out with storage in my office here, I would say, well, look at all this wasted space right here. How can we fill this space with stacked things or other types of shelves? Look at this wall space. Can we add a shelf? And there's ways to make it aesthetic. And then there's ways, if you just want to function, you don't care about aesthetics, there's ways to just throw up a shelf and just put stuff up there. So, that depends on your aesthetic preferences. I use bins to sort and get a lot done, but it encroaches on my functional space regularly. I rent my house from my in-laws, see more, and they left a bunch of stuff. It's theirs plus mine. How do I create additional temporary space to work? I'm miserable living around bins. Yeah, in between purging, organizing sessions. That's the only crazy part of this alarm. It has a crazy bell. I'm going to answer a few more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Oh my gosh, that flew by. I am so excited. Okay, so you've got lots of bins around. Additional temporary space to work. I need to see the layout of your house. I feel like it almost has to do with like what I was just talking about with wasted space. Is there a corner? Do you have a table? I mean, a folding table, one of those long folding tables where you've got like layers, you've got stuff underneath it, you've got stuff you're working on. So when you hit timeout, it can just stay as is and then you can leave. I mean, it depends on, what's your timeline? How long are you going to be living there? I have a lot of follow-up questions for you. Is there an area in your space that would be worth sacrificing to just your organizing projects so that the rest of your house can feel more functional, the rest of your space can feel more functional? I'm trying to see if you mentioned if it was you rent from your house from your in-laws. Oh, and they have stuff. Okay, so you're in a house and then you're renting. I wonder if it's almost like tying in living in a small space like the studio is shifting one room to be more multi-purpose for function, and then one area or room for the sorting and organizing part. What is one thing you organize, declutter? What is the one thing you least enjoy? You talking to me? Who else, I guess, are you talking to? One thing you love to organize and declutter. Paper. I'm a nerd for paper, and I don't know why. And I need to do more paper videos for you guys. It's just that, like, I need to be with a client so I can have the examples because I don't have a lot of paper. And so, like, oh my gosh, like, I help clients with, like, organizing their tax papers and their files. I don't know what it is. So I would definitely say paper, but I don't really have paper, so I get to enjoy it with my clients' paper. I should just go on a paper tour. How about that? A nationwide paper purging organizing tour. And what is the one thing you least enjoy? Organizing and decluttering? That's not a question. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. That was fun. Thanks for asking. I really can't. Least enjoy. I can only think of like client situations. And I would say the hardest part, it's not hard per se, but it's challenging emotionally, is when I'm working with a client who has lost a loved one and we're going through their loved, deceased loved one's belongings, and they're really sad about it. And I have, I need to be gentle and kind and careful and talk about, no pressure. So I would say maybe that sunk cost is the idea that you become more invested in something once you've spent time and money on it, and it feels like you can't let go of it because you've already spent your time, energy, money, etc., committing to it. So somebody asked earlier about, I guess your question was, it's hard to let go because you're attached to the time and the money. That question gets me. I watch some clients be really ruthless, and it depends. It's hard to speak for budget reasons, right? Because we all have a different budget. So for me personally, I would say a lot of my stuff I acquire secondhand. So it's easy for me to move stuff along because I'm like, I didn't spend any money on it. If something's $50 or more, I'll try to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. But I don't purge that much stuff. So you know what it is? I'm having trouble answering that question because I am detached a little bit from that feeling, which I mentioned earlier. Some certain questions can challenge me. How to deal when you're attached to the time spent on it. It's hard. It is hard. It really is. I think it comes down to asking yourself the right questions. And those questions are a lot like the purging questions. Am I really using this? I think someone valuing it more is a thing that really helps me. So, okay. So I'm kind of getting an idea for how I feel. When I have something that's sitting around and I'm like, oh, I did spend money on this and I did spend time on this, and it's just sitting there. This is just one example. There's someone out there that would just really love to use this. And if you know the person, that's even more motivating to be able to move it along. So you'd be like, here, I know like this would really help you. It's not serving me and not helping me. And then of course the question of, is it replaceable? And people misunderstand, is it replaceable not just by money buying a new one, but can you borrow that? Can you rent something? Can you get rid of that one kitchen gadget that does something real specific, but taking a little bit more time with a knife? These fancy like chopper things versus like, just spend a little extra time with the knife chopping something than buying this fancy like chop thingy. That makes sense. Professional organizer question. Oh, Jesse, I think you are an organizer. How do you like to navigate working with resistant clients, even those who become somewhat combative? It's been a rare experience for me. Same here, because if they want me there, they're usually open, and it's kind of a filtering process. Like to do the consultation on the phone, I just do 15 minutes complimentary to kind of just gauge where they're at and how open they are to what they want to do. Let's see. But the second part of her question is, it's rare experience for me, but I freeze up until I can guide things in a good direction and read what the client's learning style might be and shift. Love to hear your point of view. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of somebody. Yeah, it's been really rare for me. Combative. Combative as far as, I guess, resistant. I guess, like, I'm wondering, like, what scenario. I'm trying to think of an example specifically so I can speak to that and tell a story. Not wanting to throw things away. I'm recalling a situation with a woman, but she just wasn't ready. I think some people can say that they're ready, and I think it's more about them than it is about you. She wanted to go through her mother's things, and I pulled out a receipt. This is actually a really fascinating story because it really changed the way I worked with clients, and this was early on in my career. So we pulled out this receipt. Her mom had bought shoes at one time, and she couldn't let go of that receipt because the receipt was about the shoes that her mom bought her, something along those lines. So after that, I realized I will not throw anything away. I will show a client a crumpled up piece of paper and be like, did you want this? to make sure and to build trust that they know that I'm not just going to throw stuff away behind their back. Once I get to know the client, I get to, we develop a trust, and I'm like, oh, I know that every time these are trash, we've made that known. That's chaotic. I don't usually do that. I'm just showing off. Now I'm really bothered by that on the floor. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's more about the client, because they could say they're ready and you can ask them the questions. But once you get there and they're not feeling open, and it is up to us to adapt. We are consultants to adapt, to their needs. I guess, asking questions. That's our job, is as a consultant to ask the right questions. And so I would say, what do you think is going to help you move forward? What do you think is going to help, be able to let go of this stuff? How do you want to be able to move forward? Don't you want a nice space? Don't you want to clear some of this stuff out? Yeah. I guess I'm also trying to think of maybe one more example of anybody else that was resistant. I had a client here and there that had trouble letting go of control and direction of the appointment. And I just kind of had to back off and just kind of be a little bit more passive and let her lead. And then over time, she got more comfortable, and I would really choose where to be more direct. And then over time, it developed some trust, and we kind of now share the direction of the appointment. It's fun. I really enjoy the psychology of organizing. We are psychologists.